Welcome, namaste. We're going to do a 5-minute tutorial on how to get into a headstand, what we call Shirsasana. Some say it's the queen of poses of asana, and the king is the handstand. Some will argue and say the queen is the shoulder stand and the king is Shirsasana, the headstand. I say you go at your own pace with this pose. It's definitely a challenging pose in yoga. There's just as many contraindications as there are benefits. So for example, if you're someone like me who's had a couple of brain injuries, you want to check and make sure that it's safe to invert and to bring pressure down into the small capillary, the little cells or the brain. Now for most of us, that's fabulous to turn the nervous system upside down and to recharge ourselves. And I highly recommend studying from the great guru BKS Iyengar, who used to enthusiastically sometimes hold lectures in headstands for half an hour. He was incredible. So I just want to say, if you are pregnant, double check. If you've been practicing throughout your practice and yoga, or you've been pregnant throughout your practice and your doctor's cool, then headstands. My sister was doing headstands right up until her end of her 3rd trimester. Again, different situations, your body. Some of us have high and low blood pressure. Coming out of poses and inversions with low blood pressure can almost make people faint, so you want to be careful with that. And just the idea of putting all the weight of your body into your head, skull, and brain is something you want to be very, very careful. And you want to make sure that you're very strong in the muscles in your arms, because we're going to use those, and in the muscles in your core and your legs. So we want to build strength. I didn't just jump into a headstand, even though I could do one as a kid. And then each time I've had, for example, just recently another brain injury. I was in the hospital for 6 days. I know, with a brain bleed from the left ventricle because something fell on my skull on the right side. The same injury I've had before, if you can believe it. So I had to wait 3 months before my neurologist said, hey, Tanya, it's okay to do that. I'm okay, you're okay. You got enough skull and enough scar tissue now. When I just had a recent test and they put all these little things, they scrape them into your head, the guy said, you've got a thick skull. I said, I think I had one before all these injuries. So, testa dura, as they say in Italian. So if you've got a strong skull, you might be off a little better in this headstand, might not do the best in others or in other poses. But what we're going to do is create a tripod. So they teach us in science the best way to support anything. If you look at all around here, there's tripods holding up phones and cameras. So you want to make tripods. We make them in our feet in yoga, with the top of our feet and bottom of our feet. We even think of a tripod when we're tripod here, or when we're seated, and our sit bones in the front of our pubis bone. A lot of triangles to bring us up. So we're going to create a triangle. And a lot of people, when they do this triangle thing, they interlace. But there's 2 ways of doing it. You can see, so you can interlace. But what happens is this little pinky guy, this guy here, gets crushed. So when you squish him down, you should tuck him under. So this pinky, bring him underneath so that you've got a flat, you can see the surface of my hands is flatter. That's the first thing. And then, as you know, you've got a humerus bone, a radius bone, and an ulna bone. Just like your leg's a big bone and then 2 that support, right, and move. So these 2 bones are better, instead of stacking them sideways, so piling them on top of one another, try to tilt them so they're beside one another. You get what I'm saying? So instead of going into the pose like, try going in so that this is flat down and both bones are supporting. So again, when you go into your triangle, you see I'm making my triangle. I'm making it like this, tucking the baby finger, rolling my shoulders down a little bit, and now I've got a good tripod. Also, in the pose, I want to try and keep, like I do in all poses, so when I'm upside down, I want to try and keep this straight, this elbow joint, these bones flat. Remember, this is reaching up. You want to turn them, kind of flatten them a bit. And then, where do you bring your... Strange, lost you guys there. I think we had a power out, we had a Wi-Fi outage there. So if you can see, remember, tuck that finger under, create your tripod, and then draw a straight line from here to here, flatten those bones. So that's where we're starting with what's supporting. Then we were talking about where do we put our hands? We put them over here? Well, look at my shoulders, I ain't got no tripod. going in like this. So even with my shoulders in, what I want to do in yoga teacher training, we say, you know, get your phone or get a book and see where that spot is, where the phone doesn't fall. You remember when you used to do supermodel walk, whatever, like this. But I think it's more than that. For me, the best lesson I learned was from my Iyengar. So he shows it like this. He interlaces around the top of his skull. You see that? And his thumbs are almost pushing down, supporting the skull. If you can see that, my thumbs are almost just below where I guess the brainstem starts, right about there. So now I've got some weight on my head, but it's being more applied into my arms and the support. I've got all knuckles and fingers involved. A lot of people just let the hands slide. Don't let your hands slide in the headstand. So knuckles, hands, everything involved. Then once you've got this tight and you've got your nice tripod, you also want to check out another thing. Look at my humerus bone. So we talked about this bone, right? Some people's humerus bone is this big. So it's shorter skeleton. So their bone comes down to here. So look what happens when they do a tripod. Their head is actually, their neck and head, or you may have a long neck, that's another reason, that their head is actually above. So when they come down, how can their hands hold up their head when their head's on the floor? Their hands can't get there. So that might be where they're going to use this kind of a tripod and try very, very carefully not to put too much weight on the head and draw their triangle like this. We'll teach that in another segment. I'll show it a little bit here, but those are your two tripods. So once you've got your tripod, again, do I kick up against a wall? Do I walk up the wall and go forward? There's very many techniques, but if you really want to learn, and you're gonna maybe roll out of it a couple of times, maybe have an extra mat or two on the other side. If you want to learn how to do it and go into it without relying on the wall, and do it in front of it, I mean, there's different ways of learning. Try this. So we're gonna come down into our tripod, interlace, tuck the baby finger under, work how far apart should my elbows be? I forgot to mention, so we can reach for our elbows. When you feel that your elbows, you can reach for your elbows, place them down, then interlace the fingers. Get the head, remember we talked about Iyengar? So let me show you the knot to do. So if you have to kick up like this to get up, you're not ready. So we tell people this at the beginning of training. We say, take the month with us to learn how to stabilize, and a lot of people finish the program after about 3 weeks of practicing it daily. They do it at their lunch, and once you get it, there's such a feeling of flying and freedom and power. So again, it's not an overnight thing, it's something you want to practice. How do I do that? So I've created my tripod, my fingers tucked in, I've got a nice straight tripod going here. I'm trying to bring all the weight into my arms as much as possible, and my fingers, they're active. My shoulders are down, and I'm gonna lift just here. Just play with this a little bit. Once I can lift my knees and hips, I might be able to take a few steps and start crawling. You see how I'm pushing my hips? A lot of people keep their hips here, and what they don't realize is they have to risk that little push of the hips over almost a bit, so that they're feeling like they're coming in line. With that fear of falling, it's inevitable. That's why it's such a huge pose when you get it, because you just feel so powerful that we lose or release that fear, if you will, of falling in so many ways, emotionally as well. So practice that. Walk in, interlace, set your tripod, take your time. Then come up and just walk, 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 walk. That's it, just walk, practice walking. Then try maybe one leg into your chest. Oh, okay, I can do that. Then try the other one. Watch where your weight is going, because it'll start moving into your head if you're not careful. You've got to keep those hands and arms, everything focused, core focused, breath. Kind of forgot to tell you to breathe. There you go. Inhaling and exhaling, of course, use your nose here. So once again, get the hair out so we can see. Neck here. Interlaced, supportive fingers, thumbs, knuckles. Hips up, trying to line them. Walk, walk. 1, 1, 1. Ooh, maybe a little. Okay, okay, yep. Then, when you start getting used to bringing one in, try to come up. See that?
one knee in, then come up. Then maybe 2 knees in, maybe 2 knees in. Then that stacks the pose to bring it up and support you. The legs aren't as important as everyone thinks. My legs, it's where my hips are over my shoulders. And once I can establish that, again, wait, watch your fingers, toes, bring the knees into the chest. And then as you get stronger with your core, you'll be able to start lifting your legs up right from the ground here. Take your time. There's my coffee. Rest before releasing the pose. Stay like everything here's got to soften. Personally, I like to reset my pose by coming up. I go from child's pose after Shirsasana headstand to Balasana, and then just rest and kneeling for a few breaths. Close your eyes. Relax your shoulders, lift up that heart, breathe into your heart. And praise and bless yourself for perhaps learning something new. We can do it against a wall. We can walk off a wall. And I like to do that in our 2-hour workshop. So I hope you'll be able to join me. We've got one coming up on Saturday in April. I'm not quite sure the date. But invite and come and spend the day flinging yourself around and flying. The divine light in me sees, honors, bows, and is so honored that you spent today with me a little bit of time. Thank you so much. Namaste. Have a fabulous day.